Good morning. I'm really glad to be with you today. My name is Julien Cataliotti, and I'm in charge of digital strategy and customer experience for Teva. So today, I will be taking you on a short journey, shed some light on how, at Teva, we've worked for the past couple of years in order to redefine our sales and marketing approach to become more customer-centric. When I'm thinking about customer centricity, I often think about it as being able to cross the mirror, as that illustration with Alice in Wonderland shows. Becoming customer-centric is changing our perspective, stopping looking at ourselves and at things from our own point of view, crossing that mirror and seeing the world as our customer does. I'm sure you all know that example, which actually nicely follows up Dario's metaphor about the hot dog. How Heinz changed, reshaped their product in order to fit better their customer experience. What is a bit less known is that that process, that new value proposition, was actually very iterative, and all along the way had as a result to allow them to increase their market share, generate additional sales. Beyond that very narrow example of the ketchup industries, it has now been demonstrated that significantly improving our customers' experience directly generates economic gains. This is a reason why it's important to focus on that customer experience, both in order to improve our patients' outcome, but also support that flow that was discussed a bit earlier. Closer to home, in our own industry, a recent study by DT Associates has shown that that customer experience, that excellent customer experience, can make the difference between having a meaningful interaction with our HCPs and not moving the needle at all. Now, as you are all sitting in this room today, I'm pretty sure that all of that are things that are really familiar to you. And the real question is more how. How can we become more customer-centric? How can we unlock that better experience for patients, for the HCPs, and all the other stakeholders that we end up working with in practice every day? So this is what we are going to go through today. And I will describe to you the journey that we at Teva went through, which went through 3 distinct steps. To become customer-centric, we first worked on defining what good looks like. As Dario said earlier, whenever we talk about customer experience, there is a wide range of buzzwords that are being used. So that first challenge came down to making it tangible, easily understandable by the whole company. The second step we are going to describe here was actually the largest, and that was revisiting our whole sales and marketing operating model to actually be able to execute on that vision. And finally, the first step that we took was about ensuring that all along the way, we were able to measure our progress, have a compass to guide us and make sure that whatever change we did internally turned into an effective impact for our customers. So first, let's zoom in on that first step, defining what good looks like. Here for us, the key success factor was making sure that we were able to build a vision that was tangible, easy to understand by all of our colleagues. To get there, we built what we called standards, customer experience and commercial excellence standards, that ended up being a simple list of affirmations, easy to understand and target for our colleagues. A few examples. One of these affirmations was, for each of our key customers, we have a formalized and clear value proposition. It may seem extremely simple, and it is, but we actually realize that that's not necessarily something that we had present in the company. Or, at each of the key touch points where we interact with customers, the experience we provide is monitored by ad hoc touchpoint satisfaction measurement. That list of standards also had to be built collaboratively. So we did that by working very closely with our colleagues from markets in sales, marketing, digital, customer experience. Two key reasons for that. First, that was the first step of ensuring engagement from them and making sure that all of these stakeholders were part of that starting transformation. Second, and more importantly, we wanted to make sure that through those standards we capture the diversity of our markets, of our therapeutic areas and product lines, and of our customers. As important was the idea that those standards had to be really owned by leadership. I think that was one of the points that came out of your question. Leadership ownership is critical to any meaningful change, and that was the case there as well. So we made sure that those standards were owned by them, by having our executive VP for Europe sponsor the initiative, and spending the required face-to-face time with each of the general managers of our biggest countries to ensure we got there. Finally, something that came out is that those standards ended up being very specific to our company and our culture. We actually started that journey by working with Gartner, working with a number of consultancies, because we thought there would be such a list of customer experience standards available off the shelf that we could work out from. We pretty quickly realized that it wasn't the case and that we had to build our own, which ended up making them more closely fitted to where we were. Once we had that clear view of what good looks like, we set out to actually prepare the execution of the transformation itself, always using those standards as a lighthouse. This step, revisiting our operating model, ended up being the largest one and the most intensive for the whole organization. We started by defining a blueprint of that sales and marketing operating model. Here, we also worked collaboratively with the same stakeholders that we engaged previously. And we revisited our whole chain of processes, starting from insights gathering, going through strategy, planning, execution, measurement, and ended up with a reviewed processes guidelines centered with a core consisting of a customer strategic plan, which itself ensured that we were no longer thinking about our brands and, back to your earlier point, pushing those brands around, but more by defining the value proposition that made sense for our key customers and executing on that vision itself. Once that had been clear, we needed to enable our organization to actually execute on those new processes. There, we partner very closely with HR at global and local level to identify what were the core capabilities that our teams needed to develop to be able to deliver on that new process. What is it that our marketers, for example, needed to be able to do to build that customer strategic plan? When we talk about consolidating insights from journey maps, building those journey maps, what is it that the marketers and the analytics team need to have? So we identified these questions and we build the answers through those capabilities, grouping them into a core set that we then audited the various local organizations for in order to set up the upskilling, recruitment, or reorganization plan that were necessary. With that view actually set up, we were able to start the rollout. That rollout of the transformation we actually did in a staggered manner, starting with one country, experimenting, iterating, a bit like that Heinz ketchup redesign example that I was referring to. And we did that for two reasons. First, we wanted to make sure that as we went from one market to another, we could leverage all the learnings that we had built along the way. Second, our transformation team was a small transformation team, and we wanted to be sure that we could give all the necessary focus and time to each part of the organization we were working with, which was permitted by that staggered approach. Finally, as we started that transformation, we also knew that we wanted a way to make sure that all of that internal change that was coming about effectively transformed into a better experience for our customer, effectively brought that external customer experience improvement we were looking for. So to do that, the first thing that we looked for was a compass, a high-level KPI that would allow us to compare ourselves versus ourselves over time, measure our own progress, as well as help us compare ourselves versus our competition. So we chose Net Promoter Score for that. It's not a perfect metric, and we could have a very long debate around which would be a better KPI, but it had a number of benefits in being simple to capture, easy to benchmark, and being a good catalyzer for change overall. So we chose NPS, we baselined ourselves, looking at our current Net Promoter Score in all our major markets with our major customers, and then set objectives for senior leadership across the organization in order to improve that Net Promoter Score. Now, as I said, NPS is great as a compass to give a general direction, but it does relatively little in terms of telling us where to act, where the exact insatisfaction or satisfaction or critical touch points for our customers are. So to get there and gather that more real-time data that can be much better basis for action, we combined NPS with touch point satisfaction measurement. There, we worked once again with our local teams, mapping the journeys of our key customers, identifying their key points of interactions with us, and implementing that real-time measure that would give us that visibility. For example, now when one of our sales reps in Poland has a remote engagement with an HCP, let's say a GP, following that remote engagement, we have an automated email that goes out to the HCP so that they can, if they want to, let us know the value of that interaction. If the GP's satisfaction is not within a certain range, we automatically notify the rep through their CRM so that they can then follow up and understand how the interaction can be improved with that GP. The same kind of measurements we are setting up right now across various channels in various situations that we've identified as critical. So this has been our journey so far. I now want to share with you a few learnings along that way. So first, and this is something that's already been discussed a couple of times today, and I'm sure we'll come back again and again, our approach showed once again that tech and digital are an enabler and not an objective. This transformation has been and still is a transformation about mindset, first and foremost, about people, enabled by tech. We are the digital team, and we are driving the transformation in our group, but that is not because it's about technology. This is because the change management capabilities, customer-centric mindsets, and ability to influence and act leveraging all available channels tend to be something that was strong in our case, in our digital community. And this is why we ended up driving that approach. Second point, tone from the top is critical. This is something I've already described, but we saw it in practice. Those markets where the results have been the better, where the markets where the general managers really embodied that customer centricity, drove their organization this way, educated relentlessly on the importance of seeing things from the customer's perspective and executing our strategy with that customer centricity in mind. Third point, what we saw was that we had huge capabilities gap in the organization. All that transformation about sales and marketing actually requires a lot of capabilities that we did not possess, coming from a more traditional brand marketing push approach. If I reflect critically, I could even say that we were maybe a bit slow to recruit from outside of the industry where we needed. And there is only so much that internal promotion and upskilling can do there. On the other hand, we saw very good effects where we recruited key people in markets on those transformative positions from industries like FMCG, telecom, or banking. Now, that transformation itself is still ongoing today, but we can already also reflect on the benefits both for our customers and for ourselves. For our customers, that change meant that we spent more time trying to understand them. We worked more closely with them, we mapped their journeys, we talked to them about their unmet needs. We tried to understand what were the key moments for them and what we could bring there. And that led us to fulfilling some of those needs that we would not have fulfilled with a more traditional approach. So for example, many of our Southern European countries are heavily reliant on working with pharmacists. We were able, by understanding better what it means for those pharmacists, having to deal with supply issues, having to deal with out of stocks on their daily work, we were able to roll out new services to alleviate the difficulties of managing those supply issues that ended up in a better service, a better experience both for their patients and for those pharmacists' businesses. So I would say that overall, in the end, we are now providing a better experience to our customers, making them more satisfied. For us, as an organization, I can say already confidently that we are a stronger organization now. We are a stronger organization, first because from a purely business standpoint, we saw significant market share gains, once again, most strongly where that customer-centric approach was supported by the general managers more heavily. There, a more personalized, a more customer-centric, a more omnichannel approach led to those gains. We also saw that our marketers overall are now better able to innovate. They look at things from a new perspective, they are able to leverage new tools, and that has translated into a better ability to build impactful plans and differentiate versus their competition. And finally, that overall approach also came down to standardizing our our sales and marketing operate across countries. It used to be that every country did their brand planning, every country did their commercial cycles differently. With that common blueprint that we rolled out across our major countries, we now have a much more standardized way of doing things, and that also unlocked for us more ability to centralize, and therefore also be more efficient, for example, through shared services. So I hope that it was clear from my short presentation that I'm very passionate about those customer experience topics and about transformation, you could say digital transformation in general. So please feel free to reach out in those next few days and discuss that with me. I just want to thank you for your attention and wish you a great day to all.